So Virginia's not coming tonight. I gave her the night off for some funny reason. I know. And so you gave her the night. Everybody here gave her the night off. But I've got instruments. So you're playing the keyboard. No, I'm just kidding. Ben's here. We don't need Virginia. But I brought a bunch of percussion instruments. Anybody wants to play, drown out my voice, I would love to hear you do that. Even this one. And I'm not kidding. Anybody coming up? We're not Rabbi Shefa, but that's okay. No? Okay. You didn't start filming yet, did you, Tim?
Yeah, I just started when you started banging.
Okay, thanks. When I started banging. That's good. So. Okay. That doesn't mean we're not going to have some fun. Shabbat Shalom. I still have, what time do you have? We've got our you got 6 on the nose? We got to fix that again. I know, I don't know what to do. It's Jewish Standard Time is slow, I guess. I don't know. That's how it works. Shabbat Shalom, did you get the email today? Some people didn't get the email that said, we're celebrating holidays today, aren't we? Yeah, it's Shabbat. It's our holy day also. Did anybody here go to the movies today? Anybody have Chinese food today? Okay. Because I was going to tell you, I've got a thing here that talks about why Jews eat Chinese food on Christmas. I was going to do that. I've got a thing that, did anybody see Star Wars yet? So I've got a thing here about, I posted this on Facebook. Some of you may have seen it already. Briella thought it was funny. I love Briella. She always laughs at my jokes. I love that. Whether this was in Yoda-ish or Yiddish. You heard that one? The Yodish or Yiddish ones? I've got that for you today, too. But I also have one that was a little bit serious and not as much fun, except it was an interesting fact. So I'm going to start with that, and then we'll go on to something else. But did you know that the Hasidim celebrate Christmas Eve? Did you see that in the news? It's been something that they've been doing for a very, very long time, the Hasidim. But it's not what you think. Duh. Of course, it's not what you think. Obviously, in the Hasidic neighborhoods, Christmas Day is just like every other day. Shabbat is different. Christmas Day is just like a regular day. Children go to school and the stores are open there and things like that. But apparently, for a while now, Christmas Eve does something. It's not exactly, it's a little bit like a silent night. They call it Nittelnacht. And they're not really sure what nittel means. It's not a real Yiddish word that came from somewhere. They think that it may have meant, it may have been something about the date on the Jewish calendar, or it may be another way of saying quiet. But there's an interesting thing. So this is what happens. It says that they do some of the fasts as if it were a kind of a minor fast, and they're encouraged to, John, this one's for you. I thought about you when we did this. They're encouraged to engage in what they're calling kosher activities on the 24th of December. Kosher activities like playing chess or playing cards, or a lot of them do household chores on the 24th, like they fix the things, all the honey-do lists. And why do they do that? At the stroke of midnight, the same time that many places are holding Mass, what? They get really close to the fireplace. No, they don't. It has nothing to do with fireplaces. they start studying. And it says that like, if you go into the Hasidic neighborhoods, like 2 minutes before, they've got their books open, they're ready, it looks like they're ready to start a race, and then boom, they start studying and studying. And I was curious, because I had never heard of that. So it says that it has origins that were maybe not so nice, that, as you know, in other communities, in other places in the world, there were a number of times that were especially problematic to be Jews. And so Christmas was one of those times when often the pogroms would come and things that people would attack. So they stayed out of sight for the most part in New York now, they'll even close down the shuls and they'll close down the mikvahs and things, and they'll kind of stay out of sight, stay at home until midnight. And then at midnight, they start studying. There are some very strange reasons that they give for this, too, that I thought. So some say things like, if Jews, why do they wake up at midnight? It says, if Jews are asleep at midnight, when the Christians are at Mass, then there are, I'm reading this. Do I know what this means? Not exactly, but this is what it says. It says that the bad angels are criticizing the Jews. How come you're not worshiping me when they are? That's what those bad angels say. So, but whatever the reason, it stays and they do it. And it's, anyway, I just thought that was kind of interesting, that it could also be a holiday that if you go to Hasidic neighborhoods, you will see something different going on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. That surprised me. But we are not going to have anything different happen. We are going to have a happy service, a good Shabbat service. We've got, my family is helping to light candles. So Max, did you decide if you're doing the whole thing in Hebrew or are you doing Hebrew and English? Yes. Okay. All in Hebrew? Say all in Hebrew. No. Yeah, say all in Hebrew. So let's do this, though. Did anybody have a really long week this week? Stressful week? Hot, cold? Nothing? No stressors? All right, so for those of you with no stressors, take little breaths. But for those of us who were really stressed this week, take deep breaths. Let it out slowly. Try again. Let it out slowly. I even had stressful dreams last night. I don't know why, stress in my world. Please rise. We're going to turn to page, let's see, we're doing service 3, I think, because it's shortish. Page 82. And we're going to have Sheila Bubby and Max help us with the blessing of the candles and the almost wine. Page 82.
These lights are only flickering flames, yet flames illumine our uncertain steps. Flames remind us of Sabbaths long past and of their beauty that delighted our hearts. May they inspire us to work for the great Sabbath of peace.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
We praise you, eternal God, sovereign of the universe. You hallow us with your mitzvot and command us to kindle the Sabbath lights.
Amen. We now turn to page 165 for Max to do the Kiddush in Hebrew. I called it. He needs the cup. You want to pass it back? You want to pass the cup back to him? Thank you.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei
Puri hagafen.
165.
165, is that where you are?
Okay, here we are.
Baruch
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho b'ahava u'ratzon hinchilanu zikaron le'maseh v'reshit ki hu yom techila lemikra kodesh zecher l'tziat Mitzrayim kivanu v'charta v'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim v'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava u'ratzon hinchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat L'chaim. You are welcome to sit down if you say Shabbat Shalom to somebody you came in with. Shabbat Shalom's
There's somebody you didn't come in with, I came in with you. I get to say Shabbat Shalom to you. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. I didn't come in with you. Shabbat Shalom back there, Tim. Thank you. We come back to page 83. And on Christmas we say, there are days when we seek material things. And measure failure by what we do not own. On Shabbat, we wish not to acquire, but to share. There are days when we exploit nature with reckless greed. On Shabbat, we stand in wonder before the mystery of creation. There are days when we think only of ourselves. On Shabbat, we open our hearts to the needs of others. Therefore, we welcome Shabbat, day of rest, day of joy, day of peace. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem Neshalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruchuni L'Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzedchem L'Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The synagogue is the sanctuary of Israel. Born of our longing for the living God, it has been to Israel throughout our wanderings a visible token of the presence of God in our people's midst. Its beauty is the beauty of holiness. Steadfast it has stood as the champion of justice, mercy, and peace. Its truths are true for all people. Its love is a love for all people. Its God is the God of all people. As it has been said, my house shall be called a house of prayer for all peoples. Let all the family of Israel, all who hunger for righteousness, all who seek the eternal, find God here and here find life. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabbah, ve'alma divrei chiruteh, ve'amlich malchuteh, b'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayed d'chol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala, ba'agala, u'vizman kariv, v'meru, amen. Yeheshmer Rabba mevarach, La'alam ul'alme almaya, yitbarach, yitbarach, v'yishtabach, v'yitpahar, v'yitromam, v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar, v'yit'aleh, v'yithalal, shemeh dekudesha, brichu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, damiran be'alma, v'miru, amen. Baruchu et Adonai hamevorach. Baruch Adonai hamevorach le'olam va'ed. O God, how can we know you? Where can we find you? You are as close to us as breathing, yet you are farther than the farthermost star. You are as mysterious as the vast solitudes of night, yet as familiar to us as the light of the sun. To Moses you said, you cannot see my face, but I will make all my goodness pass before you. Even so does your goodness pass before us in the realm of nature and in the joys and sorrows of life. When justice burns within us like a flaming fire, when it evokes willing sacrifice from us, when to the last full measure of selfless devotion we demonstrate our belief in ultimate. Then your goodness enters our lives, and we can begin to change the world. And then you live within our hearts, and we through righteousness behold your hesed. In Israel, they might sing it like this. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai echad. Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto, Le'olam Vahed. Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto, Le'olam Vahed. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai echad. You may be seated. We're going to chant this in Hebrew. I'm going to chant it in Hebrew. You want to do it in English? Do it while I'm chanting, because we're not going to do it twice. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם. I, the Eternal One, have called you to righteousness and taken you by the hand and kept you. I have made you a covenant people, a light to the nations. We are Israel, witness to the covenant between God and God's children. This is the covenant I make with Israel. I will place my Torah in your midst and write it upon your hearts. I will be your God, and you shall be my people. We are Israel. Our Torah forbids the worship of race or nation, possessions or power. You who worship gods that cannot save you, hear the words of the Eternal One. I am God, there is none else. We are Israel. Our prophets proclaimed an exalted vision for the world. Hate evil and love what is good. Let justice well up as waters and righteousness as a mighty stream. We are Israel, schooled in the suffering of the oppressed. You shall not oppress your neighbors nor rob them. You shall not stand idle while your neighbor bleeds. We are Israel, taught to beat swords into plowshares, commanded to pursue peace. Violence shall no longer be heard in your land, desolation and destruction within your borders. All your children will be taught of your God, and great shall be the peace of your children. We are Israel, O God, when we are witnesses to your love and messengers of your truth. You are my witnesses, says the Eternal One, and my servant whom I have chosen. Know me, therefore, and put your trust in me. We are Israel, O God, when we proclaim you, God our Redeemer, as did our ancestors on the shores of the Red Sea. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nehedar b'kodesh. Nora tehilot osef ele, nora tehilot osef ele. Who is like you, Eternal One, among the gods that are worshipped? Who is like you, majestic in holiness, awesome in splendor, doing wonders? In their escape from the sea, your children saw your sovereign might displayed. This is my God, they cried. The Eternal will reign forever and ever. V'ne'amar, and it has been said, the Eternal One delivered Jacob and redeemed us from the hand of one stronger than ourselves. Baruch atah Adonai, Gal Yisrael. We praise you, O God, Redeemer of Israel. gets dark early now. It's about to start getting dark a little bit later. We already had the solstice this week. This prayer is a prayer that we say and insert in the evening service because it gets dark. And sometimes when it's dark, it's a little bit more intimidating. We don't know what to expect. It's a little bit, we feel a little bit less secure when it's dark out. So we add this prayer. May we lie down this night in peace and rise up to life renewed. O God, spread over us your shelter of peace, of quiet and calm, and bless us with rest. And let a time come when morning will bring no word of war or famine or anguish, a time of happiness, of contentment and rest. Baruch atah Adonai, praised are you, Adonai. Haporei sukkot shalom, you're the one who puts a sukkah of peace, aleinu v'al kol amo Yisrael, upon us and on all the people of Israel, v'al Yerushalayim, and I'm going to add v'al kol ha'olam, on the whole world, on Jerusalem and the whole world. We give thanks for the night and its rest and the promise of peace for all the world. V'shameru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. Please rise for the tefillah, which begins on page 93. אדוני שפתי תפתח ופי יגיד תהילתך. Eternal God, open my lips that my mouth may declare your glory. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Leah, ve'Elohei Rachel, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Hasadim Tovim, Ve'Koneh HaKol, Ve'Zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imahot, U'mevii Geula livnei v'neihem, L'ma'an Shemo be'ahava, Melech Ozer u'Moshia u'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'Ezrat Sarah. God of all generations, of Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, of Sarah, Rebekah, Leah, and Rachel, be praised. Your wondrous creative power fills heaven and earth. We're on the middle of page 94. God of life and death, be praised. Through us, send help to the falling, healing to the sick, freedom to the captive. Confirm your faithfulness to those who sleep in the dust. Awesome and holy God, be praised. With acts of love and truth, we hallow your name. As it is said, be holy, for I, your eternal God, am holy. God of times and seasons, be praised. Enable us through Sabbath rest to explore and learn and impart the meanings of your Torah. Make our hearts ready to serve you this day and all days. God who answers prayer, be praised. May we, your people Israel, be worthy in our deeds and our prayer. Wherever we live, wherever we seek you, in this land, in Zion restored, in all lands, you are our God. Source of life and its wonders, be praised. You are the miracle within all we behold. You are goodness, you are compassion. We give thanks to you forever. Please join me. God of peace, of justice, and of love, be praised. Inspire us to banish forever hatred, war, and bloodshed. Help us to establish forever one human family united in peace. God of peace, bless us with peace. We take a moment to pray silently. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו Amen. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Israel. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Israel. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Israel. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Israel. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. At this point in our service, our hearts and our prayers turn to those who are ill or recuperating as we turn to the inside back cover of our prayer book. If you have names for whom you would like us to be praying, please call out their names. For all these names, for the names we choose to hold in our hearts and not say out loud, we pray together. O God, in our hearts we name those who are facing illness and pain. We join our prayers with the prayers of all who love them. Give them renewed comfort and courage. Strengthen in them the healing powers you have placed within us all. Guide the hands and hearts of those who are entrusted with their care. May the knowledge of your love and ours give added hope to them and to their dear ones. May they find even greater strength because our prayers are linked to theirs. Baruch atah Adonai, Rofei HaCholim. We praise you, eternal God, the source of healing and health. Mi sheberach avotenu bracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mi sheberach imotenu mekor habracha leavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen. And we have come to add, Mishaberach avotenu v'imotenu, may the one who blessed and protected our ancestors guard all those whom we have entrusted with the responsibility of defending our freedom and protecting us in this country, in the land of Israel, and everywhere they have been called to serve. May they return home safely, and let us say Amen. All right, I gave you a whole bunch of options of things that I thought might be fun to talk about today. Let me start off with a test. Do you know who Yoda is? Anybody? Even if you didn't get to see the new movie yet? You seen any of the other Star Wars movies? Okay. So Yoda speaks in his little inside-out, backwards ways. By the way, there are an awful lot of connections between Judaism and the Star Wars ways. Yoda, by the way, means knowledge. It comes from the root for knowledge. I don't know if they did that on purpose, but it does. Obi, Ben Kenobi. That's how everybody's names are here. They all have a Ben if they're a son of. That makes a lot of sense. Princess Leia, well, we already have a Princess Leia. I mean, none of that is very surprising. There are a lot of things that are connections. And if you've seen Spaceballs, the movie, then you know that the Force is really the Schwartz, and so it just all ties together. But anyway, this is the JTA, which is the Jewish Telegraphic Association, created by Gabe Friedman, actually. I'm going to give him credit. He created a test, I believe he's the one who created the test, that says that Master Yoda sounds more like a rabbi than you think. He has taken selections from the sayings of the fathers, Pirkei Avot, and selections from Yoda, and he's trying to see if you can tell the difference between the two. So if you were to read Pirkei Avot in the original Hebrew, it would sound a lot like Yoda anyway, because it's kind of inside, outside, backwards, and convoluted in English. They don't translate well. So I'm going to read a quote, and you tell me if you think it's Yodish or Yiddish, what you think, whether it's Yoda or a Jewish sage. In a dark place we find ourselves, and a little more knowledge lights our way. Sounds like something I said just at Hanukkah, doesn't it? So how many people say it's Yoda? How many people say it's Jewish sage? That one's a Yoda. All right, here's another one. Accept the truth you must, from whatever source it comes. Yoda? Jewish sage. That's a Jewish sage. Number 3. This one, hopefully some of you know the answer already. It says, on 3 things the world stands, on judgment, on truth, and on peace. Yoda, Jewish sage. Jewish sage. You know that one. That's one of the Al-Shlosha Devarims we know. All right, this one, you better get right if you've ever seen the movies or if you've ever studied Judaism. Do or do not. There is no try. Yoda, T-shirts. That's been on so many T-shirts lately that we know that it's Yoda. That one wasn't fair. How about, truly wonderful the mind of a child is. Yoda, sage. Oh, some of you are really wimpy and not voting at all. Try it again. Yoda, sage, not voting. That one is Yoda. Here's one I hope you get. Please, please get this one. For myself, if I am not, for me, who will be? Yoda or sage? Yes, thank you, thank you. Hillel never sounded so profound. I don't know. Here's one. If you'd asked me, I wouldn't have said either of these to this one. But anyway, size matters not. Yoda? Sage. Yoda, Yoda, Yoda. So he said that. He's a little guy. The rabbis wouldn't say that out loud to each other. All right, number 8. Preferable the risk of a wrong decision is to the terror of indecision. Preferable the risk of a wrong decision is to the terror of indecision. Yoda or a Jewish sage? Yoda, Jewish sage. That one's a Jewish sage. I had to read it 3 or 4 times myself. How about this one? Wicked do not be in one's own eyes. Wicked do not be in one's own eyes. Yoda, Jewish sage. That was right, Jewish sage. How about, at the flask look not, but at what is therein. At the flask look not, but at what is therein. Yoda or a Jewish sage? Al tistakel bekankan. Don't look at what's in the flask, but rather what's inside. That's an old Jewish one. And then, let's see, 10. Here we go. Once you start down the dark path, forever will it dominate your destiny. Consume you it will. Yoda, Jewish sage. Yeah, we don't talk much about the dark path in Jewish history. All right, how about wars not make one great? Yoda, Jewish sage. That's a Yoda. A master assume for yourself, a friend acquire for yourself, and every man judge to the side of merit. You need me to do it again? Yoda or Jewish sage? That was Jewish sage. That's too convoluted for him. All right, how about luminous beings are we, not this crude matter? Yoda or Jewish? Yeah, Yoda did that one. If I did it so it sounds like, a man you must strive to be in a place where there are no men. Jewish sage. Yoda or Jewish sage? Jewish sage. Hillel said that. Hillel said most of these, by the way. In a place where there are no men, strive to be a man, it says. And Yoda couldn't strive to be a man. I don't think there are any humans in all of Star Wars. We were just talking about that. How about this one? Always two there are, no more, no less, a master and an apprentice. Always two there are, no more, no less, a master and an apprentice. Yoda, Jewish sage. Yeah, that was a Yoda one. How about, this is a giveaway too, sorry about that. Fear is the path to the dark side. Fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate, hate leads to suffering. Yoda, I say something like that. I say ignorance leads to fear, and fear leads to hate, and it happens like that. I skip the suffering part. You don't usually hear me talk about the suffering part. And I think this is the last one that we have. That which is hateful to your, that which to you is hateful, to your neighbor do not. To your neighbor do not. I can't say this way. This is just, it's been said many, many times, many ways, to quote a phrase, but that one is the Jewish sage one. Hillel said that one too. All right, so we did through that. So why do we eat Christmas? Why do we eat Chinese food on Christmas? Give me at least one reason. You can think of at least one reason. Everybody at the same time. I don't know what you just said. What? Give me one reason. It's the only thing that's open. I mean, that's a given. It doesn't take much to figure out. There was a really funny thing I got this week about the war on Jewish Christmas. It came out last year. It was an article that someone wrote saying, we get it. For a month now, we've been putting up with listening to the songs in the stores, and we've been looking at the merchandise, and we've been getting the cards, and we're saying Merry Christmas to everybody we see. We get it. We've been dealing with this for a month. But on the one day out of the year that we could just be quiet and not have to deal with it anymore, we go into a Chinese restaurant, and it's just the Jews. Just leave us alone. But no, now there are Christians there too, and it was really funny. It was cute. It wasn't mean. It was trying to be funny. But anyway, this points out that that in 2010, when the Supreme Court Justice Elena Kagan was in her confirmation hearing, apparently one of the questions, things were getting kind of tense, so they thought that they would lighten up, and Senator Lindsey Graham paused to ask Kagan where she spent the previous Christmas. To great laughter, she said, like all Jews, I was probably at a Chinese restaurant. So she said that in a very public, way. So. And of course, Senator Schumer had to explain it, saying, oh, yeah, well, it's the only restaurant that was open. Anyway, this says, I like this quote. This version, by the way, I've got a couple versions of the same attempt at telling the story, but this one is from The Atlantic, and it's written by Adam Chandler, not the guy from the soap opera. Some of you know what I mean. He just died. For many Jewish Americans, the night before Christmas conjures up visions not of sugar plums, but plum sauce slathered over roast duck or an overstocked plate of beef lo mein, a platter of General Tso's, and maybe some hot and sour soup. But then it says that the story began in the Lower East Side, where they said, Jennifer Lee said, she was the producer of The Search for General Tso, said Jews and Chinese were the two largest non-Christian immigrant groups at the turn of the century. So while it's true that Chinese restaurants were notably open on Sundays and during holidays when other restaurants would be closed, the two groups were linked not only by proximity, but by what they call otherness. Jewish affinity for Chinese food reveals a lot about immigrant history and what it's like to be outsiders. Estimates of the surging Jewish population of New York City run from 400,000 in 1899, 400,000 to about 1 million by 1910, or roughly a quarter of the city's population. And as some Jews began to assimilate into American life, they not only found acceptance at Chinese restaurants, but they also found an easy passage into the world beyond kosher food. So if you are going to dabble a little bit in not kosher food, what are the things that are going to be the weirdest for you to eat? So the Chinese restaurants, it says, were the easiest place to trick yourself into thinking you were eating kosher food. Because you're eating meat, but it's never mixed with dairy, ever. So you go to a Mexican restaurant or Italian restaurant, because they were in plenty also, but those mix milk and meat all the time. So if you go to a Chinese restaurant, it feels a little bit like keeping kosher, they said. Of course, there's the joke that says the Jewish family goes into the Chinese restaurant, and the waiter, who is 100% Chinese, just got off the boat like a month ago, is speaking perfect Yiddish. And the Jewish customers are kind of shocked, and they said, they asked for the manager, and the manager comes by, and they said, the food is great, the service is wonderful. How did you find a Chinese guy that could speak Yiddish so well? He says, shh, he thinks he's speaking English. So they also suggested in this article that Chinese food as we know it in America is not exactly, if you go to China, it's nothing like what you have here. There's nothing at all. It's a little bit like if you go to Italy and you try to go to a pizzeria and you do some of the things we do to pizza, they will not be happy. Don't try to put some Parmesan on your pizza, for example. Don't ask for a doggy bag. But Chinese food in China is nothing at all like it is here. So in some ways what we saw happen, and this is something we could talk about at another time, but the development of Jews assimilating in many ways in America, and the Chinese, and some of them kind of worked together. Some of that happened together. So, and this was a wonderful quote. It said that I would argue that Chinese food is the ethnic cuisine of American Jews. That in fact they identify with it more than they do gefilte fish or all kinds of Eastern European dishes of yore. Would you say that's true? Would you rather have like fried rice than gefilte fish any day? I'm just saying, I thought that was kind of helpful. So we went to see Star Wars this morning, and we had fun with it. And then we went for Chinese food at Imperial Cafe, and there were at least 3 other Jewish families there. There were also non-Jews there. I don't know what they were thinking, but we did. I also saw Jewish people at the movie theater, by the way. So it was a good day to be Jewish in Shreveport. But tonight, be careful because it's a full moon. Mr. President, I bet I've got a microphone for you here somewhere. And there are lots of other people, not the Jews, they're eating Chinese food, but other people are probably drinking. Be careful out there.
Shabbat Shalom, y'all. We give thanks, particularly this night, as all nights. I mean, this is obviously a good time for families to get together, so that's always fun, and we're thankful that everybody's here.
I think you've got this one for you.
This one?
This is announcements, not a lot of
Okay,
stuff.
you're right. Want to thank Sheila and Max for being our blessers for tonight. As you know, this coming week, the office will be closed on December 31st and January 1st. But we will be having services on December 31st and January 1st. We'll be having our Simcha Shabbat celebration on January 8th. That'll be a week late, but please come. And the Interfaith Family Discussions will continue on Sunday, January 10th at 11. we're scheduled to talk about how Judaism and other faiths deal with death. Yeah, so if you have any family member who's not Jewish and would like to join us, you're welcome. This has been a very good discussion. I think the rabbis had very good attendance, and so the interfaith family discussion. So Sunday, January 10th at 11. Donations were made to B'nai Zion for the pulpit flowers in memory of Val Gold by Deb Collier, in memory of Sheldon Goldshaw by Rochelle Goldshaw, in memory of Chuck Silver by Flo Silver, in memory of Ludi and Louis Speed, Mildred Speed, and C.D. Stahl, honoring their anniversaries by Michael Speed Stahl.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have an apology to make a little bit. We have had great discussions during the interfaith discussion group, but we also realized we planned it then because it was convenient. We had another program one day, but it's also in the middle of services on Sunday for some people who go to church. We did not do that intentionally, and I'm very, very happy to try to come up with an alternate time. If anybody recommends another time when they would like us to meet, we'd be very happy to pick a different time. Right now, there are some people, like families with kids in the school and things, and families who are Jewish but have non-Jewish family who can come. So we're meeting at that time once again, unless we hear of an alternate time, and we'd be very happy to switch. I am going to call up everybody who's under the age of 13 to help me open the ark. And you'll never guess what I remembered to do today. We have put the Torah back. I put the Torah back. The only leak we still have is in the Federation office. We're getting there. All the air conditioners are fixed, and we're getting there. Please rise and turn to page 148 when the ark is open. I even put those Torahs back. Ha! עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הרצון, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך Malachi HaMalachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And on the opposite page, we continue and sing. V'nemar v'haya Adonai l'melech al kol haaretz bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad u'shemo echad. And when the ark is closed, when the arks are closed, you got to get that one too. Go, Yosh. No? Okay. Ha! Thank you. When the arks are closed, you may be seated. It's nice to have them back in there. The Sofer is scheduled to come next weekend to check them out, by the way. Yeah. We found a Sofer in Dallas who sounds really nice, and we're looking forward to having him say what we need to do. Some of our Sifrei Torah need fixing. This is the last Shabbat that we will be gathering together in 2015. And for some reason, our military death site is not showing the deaths, and we knew that there were some this week, but I was able to gather them. There is another officer down page. And with your indulgence for a moment, I wanted to let you know, in 2015 so far to date, we have lost 123 officers, which are the first responders. They have I've printed out a list of some of the details that they gave us, and I don't want to read them all out to you. You're welcome to take a look, but I thought some of them you might be interested in hearing. For example, we lost 6 this past year to 9/11 related illnesses still. We're still losing people to that. There were 28 automobile accidents and 38 that were gunfire related and 4 motorcycle accidents. The month when we lost the most was May. Louisiana, I am sad to say, was tied with Georgia with 9 deaths each. Texas had the highest number of fatalities with 13. We lost 115 male officers. We lost 8 female officers. Now, if you were a sociologist and you tried to guess something about 115 male and 8 female, I think that there's an awful lot of variables you'd have to take into consideration there. The normal number, the rate, etc., but I just thought you'd want to know that. The average age of those who died this past year in service was 40. The average tour of duty was just over 12 years. And we lost 29 canines who were served in the line of duty. But that includes, it's just kind of sobering numbers when we think about it. That includes this week, we lost Special Agent Adriana Vorderbruggen, Special Agent Michael Cinco, Special Agent Peter Taub, Special Agent Chester McBride, and 2 United States Air Force Security Force airmen were killed by a suicide bomber in a village near Bagram Airfield in Helmand Province in Afghanistan. 2 other personnel were wounded. The agents and airmen were conducting a patrol as part of an investigation when the bomber drove a motorcycle into them and detonated the explosives. One of the airmen, Technical Sergeant Joseph Lem, was a member of the New York City Police Department who had been called to active duty by the New York Air National Guard. Special Agent Vertebrogen had served with the United States Air Force Office of Special Investigations for 13 years. May their memories be a blessing, and may their families be consoled, and may we always be grateful for the ultimate sacrifice that they gave to defend our freedom. We continue on page 151. Our thoughts turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, let us meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. And with your indulgence, so one more time, I'm going to try to find something from this book instead, because we keep reading the same ones over and over. When I die, give what's left of me away to children and old men that wait to die. And if you need to cry, cry for your brother walking the street beside you. And when you need me, put your arms around anyone and give them what you need to give me. I want to leave you something better than words or sounds. Look for me in the people I have known or loved. And if you cannot give me away, at least let me live in your eyes and not in your mind. You can love me best by letting hands touch hands and by letting go of children that need to be free. Love doesn't die. People do. So when all that's left of me is love, give me away. At the bottom of 153. However brief may be our time on earth, O God, you endow our fleeting days with abiding worth. We now recall the loved ones whom death has taken from us this past 30 days during Shloshim. We remember Val Gold and Yvette Bell Sommer. Michael, we're sorry for your loss again. We also remember these parents of congregants who died this past year. We remember Debbie Davis, Mimi Hussey, Dr. Sidney Solomon Slutsky, Dr. Don Rosen, Morris Sommer, and Dr. Lowry Vasca. And we didn't add Alan's brother is on the list, Dr. David Sorky. They did bury him this week in Georgia. As we remember those who died at this season in years past, we take them into our hearts with our own, and it's time for me to remind you again that we observe yortzites at our congregation on the Shabbat at the end of the week. Some congregations do the Shabbat at the end of the week, and some do the Shabbat before, at the beginning of the week. For whatever reason, that's how our tradition developed. When Rabbi Robinson tried to explain it to me many years ago, I guess I understood it as if, let's say, you're 21 and you want to drink in a bar, and your birthday is Wednesday, they're not going to let you drink and pretend that you're 21 on the Shabbat before your birthday, but it's really a year after your birthday. I don't know what the reason is. I can argue for both sides. I know that when in congregations where I've been member and that they announced it on the Shabbat before, then at least I would remember to light the candle during the week. If that's your custom, it was my custom. But just so that you know, some people are members of 2 congregations and you'll get different notices. But the people for whom we're observing Yortzites this week include Milton Abrams, Ingrid Benson, Leon Chernick, Annie Gardspain, Sheldon Goldschall, Paul Heiss, Henry Kahn, Leo Kent, Thomas Douglas Kleban, Leona Lefkowitz, Theodore Mandel, Harry Mittenthal, Mamie Perlstein, Imogene Silber Pleiner, Armin Roos, Gertrude Siegel Scheinberg, Molly Skrinopsky, Chuck Selber, George Shanhouse, Frank Shaw, Hyman Stein, Jerome Bernard Stensler, Gerald Suckle, Marion Weiner, Sarah Willer, and Viola Wolf. In this moment of memory, our griefs and sympathies are mingled. Loving God, we rise as together we praise your name. The Mourner's Kaddish is found on page 154. The translation is on 155. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, be'alma divra chiruteh v'yamlich malchuteh, b'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'vizman kariv v'imru amen. Yeheh shemei rabbah mevarach la'alam olamei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yit'alev v'yithalal shemei d'kudsha b'richu. La'elam min kol birchata v'shirata, tush bechata v'nechemata, da'amiran ba'alma v'imru amen. Yeheh shalama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved. Amen. Please be seated. It's here. I found it. Maybe I'm not supposed to do this, but I wanted to give it to the Posner guys. Would you come up and help us with the motzi today? We'll share it with everybody. There's a big one back there. How did I get snagged on that? Ready?
Hamotzi lechem in haaretz. We give thanks to God for bread. Our voices rise in song together as our joyful prayer is said. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam. Hamotzi lechem in haaretz.
B'tei avon, everybody. When they finish that, please rise for the closing benediction. I forgot to say, Amen. I wanted to do that. Take and pass. Back. Thank you, everybody, for coming, worshiping with us. I always laugh when people say, are your services? Yeah, it's Shabbat. We haven't canceled Shabbat yet. I don't know that we ever will. Maybe there was one year when it was like snowing or something crazy that we said maybe we shouldn't make people come in, but right now, we're not canceling Shabbat. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May God bless you. May God protect you. Yaher Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka. May the light of God's face shine upon you, be gracious to you. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasemecha shalom. May God's face be lifted all the way up to you. And may God grant you all peace, lots of peace, and goodwill, and safe travels, and Chinese food, and all the good stuff. Bim bam bim 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 bam bim 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 bam chiri biri biri bim bam bim 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 bam bim 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 bam. Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat 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 shalom. What? Shabbat?